Probably 50 years old, Corolla. I guarantee you, if he's alive, he looks better than me today than I do. I mean,
There's no doubt.
There's no question about it. Because
and
if
you can't even play the guitar.
No, nothing. Look, those that can't teach, get radio shows and do this.
That's right.
Well,
Great
I mean,
Woody Allen line.
Look, it's fabulous to see you. It's fabulous to get together. What is the world? I mean, I know you get this credit. It's a standard question when you do these interviews for places that you're going, but I'll ask it anyway. It's obvious that the world of comedy is changing before our very eyes. Do you worry about any of that when you get on stage, or you just say to hell with it?
No, I don't worry about any of it. I do have, when I travel around, I have a set that I sometimes do, just, 10 jokes, 8 jokes. It's called Jokes I Can't Do in L.A. And I tell these jokes that won't work at the Comedy Store or the Improv, but they'll work in the middle of the country. And the audience seems to get a kick out of it because they feel like they're getting something that they don't normally get. So, it depends where you go. It's the crowds are much different in L.A. Than they are in Wisconsin.
You have to love doing the small clubs because you're Adam frickin' Carolla, right? I mean, you could fill up. I mean, I've been to Zany's plenty of times. I love the club. I mean, it's a great atmosphere. Tell me, why do you gravitate back to those smaller venues? Do you just enjoy doing it?
Well, there's two things about playing clubs versus theaters that, comedians and performers don't really talk about, but your audience should know. If you play like 1,000-seat theater or 1,400-seat theater, what have you, it's fine. You do one show, but theaters are expensive. There's a lot of overhead to theaters. So you literally make less money doing one show in a 1,000-seat theater than you do doing 2 shows in a 300-seat room. And then when you do 4 shows, so either go big and you sell out 2 shows at a big theater or an amphitheater or something like that, but most comedians can't do that, and they end up making more money doing the 4 shows at the club. So part of it is financial. The other part of it is theaters are fine. I've done a ton of theaters, but it's a club. It's like kind of jazz at a theater versus jazz at a club. It's just it's more intimate, it's more interesting, and for me, I just get to work out because I'm doing more shows. I don't really look at it as more work. I look at it as more chances to work out.
Your stand-up is one aspect of your career that I've never experienced. I've read your books. I've seen you on television, obviously. I watch you occasionally on Fox News. I know the podcast is up and going. Where does that rank in terms of everything that you do? Is it? I mean, it was the first, I think, thing that you did outside of the Groundlings. Is it still high on your list of enjoyment?
I am discovering myself as a stand-up. Later, I always felt like I could have been a really great stand-up. I just didn't do it. I was doing TV, I was doing radio, I did everything, but I just never threw myself into stand-up. But I always had this suspicion that if I threw myself into it, that I could be a strong stand-up. And late in my career, I started to really work as a stand-up, like the craft of it, and I got really good because I always had the potential of it. I just never worked it. And you can't, stand-up's like hitting a curveball. Like, you could be the greatest athlete in the world. You're just not going to hit that curveball unless somebody throws you 100 a day, and I would never do that. But I'm doing it now, and it feels good. It's nice to consider myself a stand-up.
Does it Does it annoy you at all that, or have you considered that you're kind of an outlier now in a comedic way, in that you're not afraid to talk politics, you're not afraid to go there? I feel like there's a subset of entertainers that want to go there and they're afraid to go there because they're afraid they'll get canceled. And then there are entertainers that are, just way left, and we know all about that. And then there's a group, and you're among that group, and I say the word annoyed, it's probably the wrong way to put it, that you have no fear in going those places, but at the same time, it probably closes as many doors as it opens for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, there's a reason why everybody in Hollywood and Los Angeles, everyone in the entertainment business got into lockstep when it came to COVID, right? They all had the exact same opinion on COVID, right? Why is that? How did they all arrive? How did they all know ivermectin didn't work and school lockdowns did work? Like, they're scared. They're sort of cowardly. They're kind of low character, and they have jobs, and they want to keep those jobs. And speaking out against things, whatever the subject du jour is, if you get on the wrong side of a subject, then you can be removed from your work. And people in Hollywood understand that, and so they end up on the same side on every subject. And so it's a real thing, and people don't want to risk that for their career. And that's how it works. I mean, it's like Kevin Spacey was a celebrated actor, and then some allegations came out, and then he didn't work for 10 years.
Right.
Well, that's the system. Now, it doesn't have to be allegations about feeling up a waiter. It can be you saying, oh, I support Donald Trump. Okay, well, that's enough for you not to work for 10 years. So then, of course, everyone's going to be in lockstep because they want to work. There's nobody that needs to, there's nobody that is guaranteed anything in Hollywood. And so they all end up on the same side. I'm independent, and I didn't get into comedy to pick and choose my opinions or figure out what was popular. I was a carpenter. I have a skill, and if I stop speaking my mind, I'll go back to swinging a hammer.
Adam Carolla's with us. He's coming into town. He'll be at Zanies December 1st, December 2nd. That's a Friday and Saturday show. You can find tickets at the Adam Carolla website, adamcarolla.com. You can also find them at the Zanies website as well. Adam, my producer, Bell K, his name is Bell, as in ring the. He asked me to ask you a question, and I'm going to allow him to ask you this question because he says that the last time that he remembers a host having you on in Nashville, he begged the host to ask you this question, and they refused to do so. Bell, you ready for the question? You ready to go? He's getting his headphones on. Adam Carolla on the line with you. It's your time with the man. Go.
One of the historical notes of your career is having worked with Jimmy Kimmel. And I was wondering, you guys are so far apart on the political spectrum. Were you ever friends? And if you were, are you still friends? And if so, how do you get along without politics creeping in?
All right. Were we ever friends? Yes, we were best friends. That's why we started the Man Show, Crank Yankers, and did all that together. Jimmy's probably not as hard left as you may think he is. Refer to my previous discussion about Hollywood and how the system works and what side to be on every subject. Is it? I'll ask you this. Every late night show host, all of them, not just, the big three, but all of them, all came down on exactly the same page with COVID, agreed with everything. COVID, that seemed peculiar to you guys?
Little. They just do it out of they just do it out of fear, right? It's a fear thing.
It's a belief mixed with a fear, mixed with I don't know what, but I didn't hear anybody saying any alternative viewpoints on COVID or anything. All right, so there's a Hollywood. I'm not calling these people liars. I'm saying there is a way you go through Hollywood, and that's and that's why they're so consistent on everything. Number one. Number two, Jimmy and I are great friends, and I was just with him for his birthday dinner last week. Had another wonderful time. I enjoy and adore him, and he feels the same way about me, and he's honestly one of the best people I've ever known in my life.
Adam Carolla's with us for a few more moments, talking about his trip to Nashville, Tennessee. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, Adam. Any traditions for the Carolla family? Will you be able to? I think you've got teenage twins, right? Will you be able to see your youngsters? What's life like in the Carolla family on Thanksgiving?
My kids are out of town with relatives, and I'm going to Dr. Drew's house to get drunk.
What's the that's a can I come? That's a pretty good Thanksgiving in my world. What's the first beverage that Carolla pops on Thanksgiving? I won't even say Thanksgiving afternoon. It might be Thanksgiving morning. It might start with a Bloody Mary. But what's the first thing alcoholic that touches your lips?
I'll go to Drew's and we'll get into some scotch.
Now, will Drew will go right along with you? Will he match you?
Yeah, he'll I don't know if he can go, swig for swig, but he's definitely going to have himself a tumbler of scotch too.
What's on your plate for Thanksgiving? If you ever get to the food portion of the day, what happens when Carolla makes his plate? What's got to be on the plate for Thanksgiving?
Whatever Drew's old lady is served up.
I don't think you can say old lady anymore, Adam. Even in Tennessee,
yeah.
I don't think that's allowed anymore.
I'm grandfathered in.
Well, we can't wait to have you in Nashville. I love talking with you. I love your work. I know you do 1,000 of these. You're very gracious with your time. Obviously, folks can get tickets on your website, I'm certain. They can buy the book. Is the book still doing well? The latest book? What was it? Last year you came out with it, right? Everything reminds me of something?
Yeah, it's doing great. I have 5 or 6 books, and people seem to really enjoy them. So start at the first if you're listening and work your way through the series.
Was your first not Taco Bell material?
No, my first was in 50 Years Wallaby Chicks. And the second, which I turned out to be right about.
I was about to say that pretty prophetic on your part.
Yeah, the second one was not Taco Bell material.
That was born of a true story, right? You were told that you weren't Taco Bell material?
Yes, I was. And it haunts me.
I mean, that's probably that's a fair assessment, wouldn't you say?
It was at the time, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you stopping by. We appreciate you coming on. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving and enjoy Nashville. We hope to see you at Zany's.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. There's Adam Carolla for a few moments, driving his car. I don't know. Walk me through what you think his enjoyment was of the interview. Annoyed?
Right now, he's probably just saying, "Hey, I finished up with that Mark guy in Nashville.
Right.
What's my next call?"
Right. So he's doing the thing. He, I think, annoyed. I think he was annoyed by the whole phone thing at the beginning, and then I think we drew him in a little bit. Your question hit a lot. But see, I wasn't going to ask the question. I made you do it because I feel like he's asked that question a lot.
I've never heard him ask that question, which is why I was curious.
Your question hit better than anything I asked because we learned something. He's still friends with Kimmel.
Please don't make me start writing your questions.
Why aren't you writing my questions? It would be so much of a better show.
No.
Why aren't you telling me to go to break right now? It's 12:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Happy Thanksgiving. When I first came to Nashville, I asked around the station about financial planners, financial partners, and potential individuals that I could team up with on a personal level. Paul Winkler's name kept coming up time and time again. By now, you know that I have a personal and professional relationship with Paul Winkler. That professional relationship involves me talking about Paul and saying nice things, and I get paid to do that. Every time you hear me talking about Paul, I'm getting paid. At the same time, I'm spending money with Paul as a client because I believe in the way that he does his business, and I know that I'm going to earn far more money on the side because of his sage financial wisdom. He believes you worry less when you understand what's going on. That's why investment education is so important to Paul Winkler and his team. They have 10 separate offices to serve you. That means you can sit down in person, face-to-face, and discuss your financial situation with a team member of Paul Winkler's. Go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute telephone conversation right now, or call 615-851-1950, 851-1950 for our friends Paul Winkler, paulwinkler.com.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, we use their programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have two people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. That is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age. The other one has a $500 benefit. And what we can do here, which is kind of cool, is look at this and say, okay, well, what if we have this person has that life expectancy and that person has that life expectancy there? And then what we do is we assume a certain cost of living increase in Social Security. What would be the optimal for taking the benefit where they get the most benefit or the most bang from their buck? And where we see the star, that shows that we would have the best benefit. Now, this is one person filing at age 67, the other person at age 70. Well, a lot of people think, well, I retire, I have to take Social Security at the same time that I retire, and that's not necessarily the case. As you can see here, one may take it at one age and one may take it at another, even though they're the same age right now. Now, the other thing we can do is say, well, what if I took it early? What if I took it at this particular age right here, where one person's 65 and the other one's 65? You can actually see how much it could cost in benefits. When we do this, we can see how much it might cost us and how much it might affect us negatively to do that. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play around the life expectancies, and we say, well, if this person lives to that age, now the cost is $187,000 in this particular example, taking it at that age right there. So you can see, based on your own life expectancy, and typically people will say, well, what did my parents live to, and come up with that type of data. So this is just part of the financial planning process that we use at Paul Winkler Inc. If you want to know more about what we do, you can get a free 15-minute phone call at our website, paulwinkler.com. We do financial planning, full financial planning. We do investing education.
The busiest travel day of the year, living up to its reputation. And what are retailer hours for Black Friday? Well, we'll have a report for you at the bottom of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Jay. It's 12:28, almost 12:29. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ran a little deep in that segment with Adam Carolla. Thank him for coming on with us. So the big takeaway, and by the way, Bell, Adam Carolla will remember my name. He most certainly knows my name. The only reason he knows my name is he has associated it with the Blues Brothers, which I get. Matt Guitar Murphy, a part of the Blues Brothers band, and as Adam noted, probably one of the older guys on set there, but looked great. I don't know if Matt Murphy's still alive, Matt Guitar Murphy. This Matt Murphy's still alive, up and running and kicking. Thanks to Carolla for coming on, and once again, Zanies on the first and the second. So turkeys of the year, we're going to discuss turkeys of the year coming up in a moment, and I'm curious your thoughts. We'll subdivide them into three categories. I don't even know that we should open up National Turkey of the Year for qualifiers. because I think it will be a runaway slam dunk result for National Turkey of the Year. That's my thought. But I want your nominations on the Super Text line, 615-737-9986. You can also call these in if you desire. 615-737-9986. We will do Turkeys of the Year, national, state, local. Turkeys of the Year, national, state, local. I have my thoughts. I'm curious yours. It's time for Jay Harper in the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon and happy Thanksgiving. A day early. It is 12:30 and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. It's cloudy. It's kind of yucky out there. 48 degrees. We'll get that weather forecast to you here in just a bit. It is a big Thanksgiving Day getaway day, of course, but the American airports and the airplanes, yeah, they're full in some parts of the country. ABC's Alex Stone says so far this year, traffic is moving pretty well.
There have been many years where right about now on the day before Thanksgiving, we're reporting hundreds or even thousands of flight cancellations. Today, it's a breeze. Despite a storm on the East Coast, airlines have figured out how to keep things moving. Boston Logan has the most canceled flights in the U.S., and it's only 6 flights. United has canceled the most of any airline, and it's only 8 flights canceled, some of those being in or out of China, not even in the U.S.
Nearly 3 million people here in America are expected to pass through airport security today alone. That's according to TSA. Black Friday deals, you've been able to find them online for a while now, but if you're somebody that likes to go to the stores in person, Sherry Preston, she's got the shopping hours for popular retailers on Black Friday.
A lot more stores have opted to let their employees have Thanksgiving off again this year. They'll be closed on Thursday. Doesn't mean, however, they won't expect those same workers back bright and early on Black Friday. Walmart, Target, Best Buy, Macy's, Home Depot, Lowe's, and Dick's Sporting Goods all plan on opening their doors at 6 a.m. Kohl's says it'll open even earlier at 5 a.m. Some of those stores will also stay open until 10 or 11 Friday night.
That is the latest news. We've got the weather forecast next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
It can be hard to find someone that you trust when it comes to big equipment or big appliance failure in your home. When it comes to large home repairs, you need someone that you can believe in, someone that you trust not only in your home, but to tell you the right things and to do the right things for you and your family. And I found them with Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Efficient Heating and Cooling is not the biggest HVAC company in Nashville, but they're the best. They have big service in their hearts, and they get you big results. I trust Jeff Eddy and his crew to do the right thing when it comes to your heater. Now, things are getting cooler. You heard the weather just moments ago, down in the 30s and maybe in the southern portions of Kentucky, northern portions of Tennessee. Might be talking about upper 20s. One way or the other, you'll be running that heater, and if it's not running as it should, it's time to call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. They'll never charge you on a maintenance call over $125 when they come to your residence, and oftentimes it's less than that. Plus, when the time comes to replace, and that time will come at some point, Jeff will tell you, and you can trust that he's going to do the right thing, either offering you Mitsubishi Electric, they're a diamond contractor with them, and an Elite Pro partner with Rheem, if you want to go in that route. Give them a call today, 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or efficienthvac.net. A couple of developments during that short timeout. It's 12:37, by the way. Libertarian Lunch is ongoing, episode 461 of the proceedings today. Happy Wednesday to you. And yes, per our super text line, allow me to answer the question that many of you have asked. My disagreement with the phrase Friday Eve is that, one, Friday is a work day, just like, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you with every fiber of my being. I hate you. It's not even Friday Eve. That
makes it even more fun.
I've never had an issue with Christmas Eve. I've never had an issue with New Year's Eve. And I wouldn't have an issue with you calling today Thanksgiving Eve. Because
Which
Thanksgiving...
I actually did on the title of the show.
Which we never got to. Episode 461, I was waiting because I wasn't sure about the Super Talk television side of things. We're now up and running.
Yes.
Super Talk TV up and running. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Hello, all. Thank you for being there. Today's episode is entitled, Bell?
If it wasn't cooked in the bird, it's not stuffing. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. The Libertarian Lunch, noon to 3. Giblets.
That's true in more ways than one. We will have a further discussion about the difference between stuffing and dressing in the final hour of the show when we have our Friday Mac Attack. And the draft today on Friday Mac Attack is Thanksgiving sides. I'm so excited. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 9 that I've already listed on my page. And it's 10 if you split dressing and stuffing, which we agreed, right?
Yeah.
Dressing and stuffing are two different things.
Absolutely.
But we're not going to subdivide dressing.
No.
However you do it, God bless you. If you do white bread, if you do cornbread, if you do oyster dressing, which is difficult for me to say, fine. The big question for Friday Mac Attack, and I don't want you to answer it now, Bell. I want to have this debate at the beginning of Friday Mac Attack. Cranberries / cranberry sauce and rolls, are they sides? Don't answer. I don't know what to do with them. They need to be there. They have to be sides. Don't answer. Don't. Not yet. We'll do it at 2 o'clock. But that's a mental debate for me. I don't even know that they would be in my draft anyway. I don't know that they would be in my top 3 anyway. I don't know, and maybe that would make it an easier discussion. But
well, now I'm trying to define what a side is in my head.
All right, you and I go in. I think cranberries have to be a side, right? Otherwise, it's a condiment.
Yeah, I've got to think about that.
We could subdivide rolls and just call rolls if we wanted to. I don't know that bread's going to be in anyone's top 3 anyway. I don't know. It's a discussion point that we'll have in the 2 o'clock hour. 615-737-9986. A lot of you getting in your turkeys of the year. 2 things during the break. 1, Matt Guitar Murphy is no longer with us. Number 2, and far less important, I need somebody to do me a Wikipedia page. Am I not big enough to get a Wikipedia page at this point? Do people do their own? Is that how that works? How do Wikipedia pages? I wonder let's see if Brian Wilson has a Wikipedia page. I would look up.
Yeah, you're about to open floodgates.
Well, mine. One of the reasons that I say I need a Wikipedia page is because of what I discovered when Matthew Murphy. And it's the disambiguation page. Matthew Murphy is an English musician. Matthew Murphy may also refer to Matt Guitar Murphy, an American blues guitarist, a Canadian musician, Matt Murphy, Matty Murphy, who is an English bass player. Apparently, a lot of musicians are named Matt Murphy.
So Brian's middle name is Glenn.
Oh, you got it up?
Yeah.
Okay, so Matthew Murphy, diplomat, Irish ambassador to Argentina. Not me, by the way. Matthew Murphy, politician, born in 1970, Illinois state senator. I knew about him because he's closest in age to me. I was born in 73. Indiana politician, Matthew Murphy, who is mayor of Valparaiso. I can't even pronounce it. And then there's several of them in sports, but none of these people are me. So I need somebody needs to make a Wikipedia page and put a bunch of garbage on there, just absolute nonsense. See how far that goes. So Brian has a Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But see, how does that happen? Do you
you can make your own if you want.
But I don't, my Lord.
Who wants to go to the trouble?
I wouldn't do that. So Matt Guitar Murphy, left us in 2018 at the age of 88, died in Miami, Florida in June of that year. An incredible blues guitarist originally born in Sunflower, Mississippi. I should know more about him considering he's my namesake. Well, not really my namesake, but you get it. Worked, obviously, with Howlin' Wolf, Memphis Slim, Chuck Berry, Buddy Guy, amongst others, before having a resurgence in popularity in the 1970s, 1980s, recording 6 albums with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. He was recording albums, and Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi attended one of his performances and asked him to join the Blues Brothers Band, which he did, and appeared in a couple of the movies playing, himself, Matt Guitar Murphy. Lindsay has a thought about the turkeys of the year. We're asking you, who are the turkeys of the year, national, state, and local? I've got some firm ideas about this. What do you say, Lindsay?
Well, I would have said Joe Biden nationally. I don't know how local Alyssa Milano is, but as of everything I've heard this morning, definitely Susan Sarandon. After all the stuff she said. But
Susan Sarandon, for those who...
I am the turkey.
A second. Let me... Yeah. Oh, you're a turkey. Hold on. I want to hear about this. For those who don't know, Susan Sarandon was dropped by one of her, I don't know if it's an ad agency or a representative agency, but she was dropped because she said the quiet part out loud, what a lot of leftists in the United States of America are thinking. She essentially said that Jews are, getting a little taste of, they're getting their comeuppance, essentially, in the United States of America right now, which, the foundation the premise of her statement is garbage, because to suggest that Muslim people in the United States of America don't have more freedoms and liberties, I'll tell you what, all of you Muslim women that walk around without headdresses on in the United States or hijabs in the United States, go over to certain countries in the Middle East that are run in a more theocratic fashion and tell me you have an ability to do that. But anyway, Lindsay, you were saying that you're a turkey?
Exactly. Oh, yes. Well, about 6 months ago, I'm walking through my kitchen, and there was a pizza box left in the floor. And I did a complete banana peel on it, landed on my back on the edge of a kitchen chair, and completely broke 2 of my back ribs clean through.
Oh, no.
Who left the pizza box on the floor?
6 months.
Yeah, who was
My
responsible?
kid.
Oh, how old's your kid?
11.
I'd be selling him to gypsies.
I just completely both feet up in the air, kablam. So that makes me the biggest turkey of the year.
I think your 11-year-old is the turkey of the year.
Well, and real quick, take all your turkeys and put them in infrared with Greek seasoning. The infrared thing, that's the way to go.
The infrared fryer?
Yes.
Yeah,
Inject them and baste them with Greek stuff.
Well, I fried turkeys for a number of years. My grandpa, thank you, Lindsay, for the call. My granddad, God rest his soul, Pa, got into frying turkeys later on in his life. And he taught me the easy method to make sure that you don't overfill your oil. It ain't that hard, folks. One, you need to make sure your turkey is thawed out. If your turkey is not thawed out, you're going to have major issues if you fry your turkey.
Kaboom.
Like kaboom, fire-based issues. Now, there's moisture in your turkey anyway. You want to make sure, because anytime water hits that oil, water and the oil don't like one another, and so that creates a chemical reaction in the oil. So if you're frying a turkey, you want to pat, you obviously wash the turkey or brine it. You want to pat the turkey dry of any excess moisture on the outside, but the turkey is moist on the inside with water. So you need to lower it slowly as you possibly can to get it in the oil. But here's your easy tip. When you get the bird and it gets thawed out, you take it while it's still wrapped, because most of these birds will be wrapped, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And you put it on the little hook that you would lower it in with. You put it in the container that you're frying your turkey in. You put it in dry. Don't put any fluid in it. Put it in dry. And now with water, Take water and fill that pot up to the point that it is completely submerged. The turkey is submerged. All right? You with me? So turkey's in the pot. It's dry. You're putting water in the pot, and you're filling the pot up until the turkey is just submerged under the water. Maybe give yourself, I don't know, half an inch, maybe an inch, because you're going to have some boil off. And then with the water still in the pot, take the turkey out and set it aside. Wherever that water line is, you want to put a little mark there because that's how full you want to fill your pot with oil. It is a common mistake that people put too much oil. They try to guess it, and they put too much oil in their pot. And when you put the turkey in there, the pot overflows with hot boiling peanut oil, and then you have a problem. But as Lindsay mentioned, strongly encourage you, if you choose to fry your bird, to use a syringe with a needle and inject different flavors. Flavoring of your choosing. You can do Greek. My grandfather did Cajun. Absolutely delicious. It is a much moister version of turkey than I ever had as a kid. My grandmother, I'm well on record on these Thanksgiving shows to tell you, my grandmother was the finest cook I ever knew. And what a wonderful cook she was. A good Southern cook. I loved veggies when I was a kid. I loved vegetables when I was a kid. Green beans and black-eyed peas and corn. I mean, I ate them up. But I was kind of a chunk when I was a kid, too, and I didn't know why. Until later on in life, I realized there was a big container of bacon grease right beside the old stove there. And as an adult, I realized why the veggies were so everything gets bacon grease in it. Everything. Ham hocks or bacon grease or some form of meat and fat go into the vegetables.
My grandmother was an absolute amazing cook too, and I think, and I asked her about it one time, and she kind of agreed that, you know, she grew up going through the Depression, and you had to not only be frugal, you had to be creative to make stuff last and give it any kind of variety because you just couldn't afford much. And I think that's why people of that age were such incredible cooks, is they had to be. Yeah, they had to learn how to be.
You have to stretch it. You have to make it work one way or the other. And my grandmother certainly did. I don't know of anything that I ate of my grandmother's growing up that I would have any disparaging word to say about, except her turkey. I'm sad to report. And my grandmother grew up from an era where I understand why this was, because I never remember my grandmother having one of those little buttons on the bird. You know, the thing that pops out when it's ready? Never remember that. I never remember a meat thermometer in the kitchen when my grandmother was cooking. But my grandmother wanted to make sure that turkey was done. And when I was a kid, they always were roasted in the oven. And God bless her, and God rest her soul, that woman made a dry bird. And so you got to do what you got to do. You got gravy on the table. Let's slather that gravy on there. My slathering of choice came from, and here's a strong tip. This was always on the table at Thanksgiving. It was only on the table at Thanksgiving. It stayed in the door. I never considered pulling it out of the door. Now, I have since, as a grown-up, when you find it, I use it from time to time at other points of the year, whether I'm making a sandwich or whatever. Durkee, we call it Durkee's sauce. But it is a dressing or a sauce. If you know it, you know it. It is I don't know how to describe it. It's a spicy mustard, but it's different than that. It has a different flavor. It has a different... There's something else going on. But I remember Durkee's sauce was used. It's like a mustardy-based, mustard mayo type base.
Is that a brand name, or is that what you called because it was made for the turkey?
No, it's Durkee. Durkee or Durkee. I think they also make like... It's Durkee famous... It's not Durkee's, it's Durkee, but It's Durkee famous sauce. It's a salad and sandwich sauce. It's referred to as, I'm reading from the container here, a tangy mustard mayonnaise flavor. But it's different than anything you get on the mustard aisle, anything you get on the mayo aisle. And we always used it for Thanksgiving turkey. And so that's what I would use for the leftover sandwiches that you have after the meal on the white bread. White bread, Durkee sauce, maybe a little bit of mayo on the other side, salt and pepper, and that's it. But I strongly encourage you, if you've never used it, if you care for that sort of thing, putting a little bit of it on the turkey, at very least using it for leftovers, for sandwiches, you'll be happy you did. It's 12:52. There's your cooking tip from Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. More cooking tips coming up next hour with Savory Spice, because I'll tell you about something that they've got going on for Black Friday. Quick time out. Back in a moment. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy, Tennessee Men's Clinic wants to remind you that they're here for you during the holiday season, just as they are every day of the year. And they wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. They hope that you give thanks for those wonderful things and blessings in your life, and they give thanks for you. But I give thanks for them because they have helped so many men overcome a low energy level, a low T level. Whatever circumstance in your life is causing you a drain on your energy in any aspect of your life, Tennessee Men's Clinic can help you. They are a men's-centric clinic. That means that they're focused on guys' health, and that's something to be said for that. Tennessee Men's Clinic's been around in Nashville for almost 3 decades. I think it's right around 3 decades now. And, of course, they just opened their new location in Cool Springs in Franklin for those of you south of the city. Go ahead and schedule that appointment. Tennessee Men's Clinic would love to hear from you. They'd love to see you as well. TennesseeMen'sClinic.com or call them today at 208-9090. That's in 605, of course, 208-9090. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Tennessee Men's Clinic.
Good afternoon. It is 1 o'clock, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We have cloudy conditions, 49 degrees. A complete forecast is upcoming. An explosion at a bridge connecting the U.S. and Canada at Niagara Falls has shut down all 4 border bridges out of an abundance of caution. The FBI is involved in this investigation. Here's ABC's Alex Stone with more.
The FBI is confirming it is investigating a vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge. It was on the U.S. side, and Canadian authorities say it is being handled mainly by U.S. authorities. Other border crossings in the area have been closed, and K-9 officers have been placed on international bridges in the area. Witness images show a car on fire and damage to a checkpoint.
As you can imagine, this is a fluid situation. We will keep you updated as best we can. Israel and Hamas, they've agreed to a deal that would release some of the hundreds of hostages that are being held in Gaza in exchange for a pause in the fighting there. Under the terms of the agreement, some 50 hostages will be freed, including 30 children and some women. In exchange, Israel will release 150 Palestinians who are being held in Israeli prisons, along with adhering to a temporary ceasefire in Gaza. ABC News' chief contributor and former CIA officer Daryl Blocker, he says that Israel is likely to gain some intelligence information from the hostages.
Human intelligence is everything that those hostages have experienced from October 7th until the moment they were released is a source of intelligence, a source of learning more for not just the Israelis, but everyone involved in the negotiating process.
An officer shot and killed a man who tried to rob 2 Murfreesboro businesses early this morning. The victim identified as a 44-year-old Murfreesboro man. The police department's information officer in Murfreesboro, Larry Flowers, says that officers responded to an armed robbery of an armored truck at an ATM on North Thompson Lane this morning. Flowers then went on to say the suspect first approached the worker at the ATM and tried to rob him. He then went to a Jason's Deli nearby and tried robbing that business. The man was then confronted by police. Here's more from Officer Flowers.
Once our officers arrived, one of our officers confronted the man, gave him various commands to produce his hands. He did not. After many commands, repeated commands, our officer had to discharge his service weapon.
The identity of the suspect yet to be released until next of kin can be notified. That is the latest news. Weather's on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hour number 2 starts right now. Matt Murphy's show. It's a pre-Thanksgiving edition. Thank you for being with us on this Wednesday, November 22, 2023. 107 and a good afternoon. Jay Harper's over in the newsroom. I'll reflect on Jay's newscast in a moment because there's some breaking news coming out of Niagara Falls. We'll share that breaking news for those just joining us in mere seconds. We remind you that Friday Mac Attack is happening on Wednesday. That's at 2:05 this afternoon. We'll catch up with Brian Wilson before we get out of here and hand the reins of the radio station and the local and live proceedings to said same. That's coming up at 3:05 this afternoon. But before we get there, we've got lots to discuss and lots to debate. To include, have you seen how the roll/cranberry question has gone on social media? The debate has exploded over there on Super Text Line, where the conversation is surrounding whether or not cranberry sauce and rolls are sides.
Well, you got to remember some of these people would argue that stuffing can be baked in a oven.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, those folks they almost sadden me in as much as they've bought into the stove top stuffing ruse.
You've been marketed to, people.
Mm-hmm, that's right. In order for something to be stuffed, it has to be stuffed somewhere. And in this case, that would be up the old caboose of the bird.
Yep.
Or in the open cavity of the bird, which, have you had stuffing?
Yeah. My grandmother used to make it that way.
I mean, I dig it. I mean, it's all right. It's a little different. It's a little different. But I'm not against it. We were always dressing people because there just was never enough. I mean, if you really do the stuffing the way you do the stuffing, that doesn't seem to be enough. There's a far more bird than stuffing.
Well, my grandmother would actually do both. Now that I think about it, she would make stuffing in the bird, but then she'd have another, plate or two of dressing.
Well, in order to work out some of these issues, by the way, you can super text us at 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. Super text line up and running, telephone lines up and running. You're invited to send in your legal questions if you desire because, as it is First Amendment Freestyle Friday on Wednesday, it is also at 109 Fry J. I like that. I like that because that's now completely wrong. It's not only is it not morning, it's not Friday, but that's okay. Anytime Jay St. Clair is on the line with us, it's a good day. 615-737-9986. Ask your legal questions or really any question of your choosing. If you have something that you want settled, Jay is your guy to do it. He is a great legal mind. He is my life consultant, and he joins us on the program right now. Hello, Jay. How are you?
Hey, Matt. Man, if I was any better, I'd be your good boy, John Henry.
13 years old, Jay. Just had a birthday. How about that? A teenager.
I hope that he gets the long end of the wishbone when y'all had that.
He's got it good, man. We've been batching it for the last couple of days. And I think he likes it. He's like a lazy teenager. He's just laying on his sofa doing what he wants to do. I mean, life is good for John Henry.
Well, don't get him to paint poles in your garage then, my man, because they will not be painted all the way to the ceiling, all the way to the floor. That's what teenagers do.
You told me briefly about Olivia, your German Shepherd. For those who don't know, Jay's got a beautiful German Shepherd named Olivia. How is Olivia doing?
I haven't heard. She's having a little surgical procedure today. She had a hot spot a couple of weeks ago. You know about hot spots.
Oh, I do. John Henry gets them. Yeah.
Yeah, very common for dogs. And then so when that happened, I said, well, I'm going to give her a full physical examination. So I went all over real carefully, and I've noticed a little bump on her side, and I pointed it out to the vet, and he said, well, let me aspirate it and look at it under a microscope and see what we think. And he did, and he said, man, it's probably just a cyst, but I see a couple of cells that are a little unusual. So I really think we ought to cut it out and send it to the lab and, just make sure everything's okay. So that's what's going on today. And, yeah, I'm a little apprehensive about it, but it'll be fine. She's tough, and, whatever it is, all right? We just deal with it.
Well, that's right. How old is Olivia now?
7. She's 7 years old.
Oh, she's great. She's got a lot of years left in her, just like you, Jay. A lot of years left in.
You know, if I'd known, Belle doesn't know this. Belle, I turned 65 a couple of months ago. And if I had known I was going to live this long, I would have taken a lot better care of myself.
Well, beyond that, I have to ask, what makes a man of your years hang out with this kid?
It makes me feel smarter.
Hey, Jay feels a lot better about his life choices when he's around me, and I don't blame him. Yeah. But the funny thing is, I'm sitting over there thinking the same thing. I feel a lot better about my life choice.
Yeah, so we've both been. It's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Right. Well,
at least I'm not him.
Well, that's right. Well, I've long said, you've heard me say this before, Jay, that you bring it up 65, that I live a life consistent with the belief that by the time I'm age 65, they'll be able to make me a new liver in a lab somewhere. Yeah. And if if they're not able to do that by the time I get that age, that might be tough sledding, but we'll see. I've got confidence, medical science.
Now, if I had known I was going to live this long, then the 1970s would have looked a lot different, I think. Man.
Well, speaking of the 1970s, I was back in your old stomping ground. I want to tell you what a wonderful time, and I know that your association with this event was the fact that you went there and you gave me some good tips on what to do. I did not get to is it Ayers?
Ayers, yeah.
Ayers. I did not get to Ayers Hall. I saw it because I got waylaid by the what is it called? Circle Park, Jay? Is that right?
Yeah, Circle Park. Right. So you saw the torchbearer.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's very happy memories for me. And so it's a cool place.
No, it was a great time, and I like to say 99.7 because that's our frequency. 99.7 of the fans out there were just absolutely fabulous before, during, and after the game. We all got a few of them, and we all know that. But.
Yeah. Well, good. I mean, and I know the game turned out well. Although I don't know if you know this, they set a all-time decibel level for college football during that game. That first play.
Well, let me tell you, it was I don't know if they had a decibel meter on my number one pick, but I said on social media afterwards that in my 50 years on this earth, one man's observation, it was the second loudest thing I've ever heard in my life. What happened on Saturday when when they ran back that 75-yard play from scrimmage, first play from scrimmage for a touchdown for the Tennessee Volunteers. I've only had one experience louder than that, and that was when in 2013 I was on the side. I happened to be on the sidelines as a quote-unquote reporter for the Georgia-Auburn game, and that's when Auburn it was 4th and 19, and they called it the prayer at Jordan-Hare, where they just threw it up and it bounced off a dude's helmet, and they caught it. Loudest thing I've ever heard in my life, and I don't think I'll ever hear anything louder. But that was loud, boy. Let me tell you, it was crazy.
No, that was good. What a bunch of football games. Georgia looks good, and so it'll be Georgia and Alabama in a couple of weeks. And golly, for Tennessee people, I don't know what to do with that, man.
Root for a bus wreck. That's what you root for. Root for you root for the team buses to hit each other in the parking lot.
Yeah, the ideal situation would be for Auburn to upset Alabama this week.
Well, I wouldn't mind it. I don't think. Jay, we've got a big debate going on. I've got a couple of folks on the line that want to talk with you, and a bunch of people asking questions on the super text line. But I want to ask your opinion on is cranberry sauce. We call it sauce, although my wife makes it from actual cranberry. I mean, she boils down the cranberries and does all of that. But is that a side? Is it a condiment? What is it, Jay?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I think that's more like a condiment. I mean, to me, that's more like jelly, right? But I could see an argument for it being a side.
Mm-hmm.
I think of sides as being more vegetables. I'm trying to think if there's any side that's not a vegetable.
Would you consider applesauce a side?
You don't know? I guess not.
Yeah, but cranberry sauce is different.
But that's the thing. It's like if you ask a British person, applesauce is a sauce. It is not
Well, no, I get that. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I think there's a hair to be split here.
Well, I think that's right. But here's what the main point I make about it. If cranberry sauce were really that good, we would eat it every week. But we don't. If turkey and dressing were really that good, we'd eat it every week.
Let's have Christmas every other day. I mean, it's good because it's special, Jay. I mean, I get
it.
Now, when I was a kid, and I don't know what your experience was growing up, did y'all eat turkey like during the year? Not turkey like cooked in the oven, but I'm talking about, I don't remember ever having sliced turkey when I was a kid.
No, I agree with you. Even for a sandwich,
right.
We had bologna.
Right, we did too.
And then we graduated to salami.
Ooh, that's big. Yeah, when we were allowed, we had bologna, but with my grandma and grandpa, she would occasionally buy the ham, not like deli ham, but just like processed ham.
Yeah.
But we were not allowed to have the ham.
Right.
That was for grown-ups.
Absolutely.
And every so often, my grandmother asked me if I wanted a ham sandwich instead of a bologna sandwich. And I love bologna, but that was a big day for me.
You know what you're making me want that I hadn't had in way too long? Bell grew up in the South, didn't he? Right?
Yeah, he did. He did.
Bell, when's the last time you had a fried bologna sandwich?
So good.
I would say that would have to be
so good.
Never.
Oh, Bell. Bell.
Don't like bologna.
What?
Never like bologna.
If you fried it, you would. And you slice it, right, man? You cut a slice.
That's
it
right.
From the middle and the end to keep it from
curling up. Yeah, you got to cut little spots in it so that you don't get it curled up on you.
Wow, Bell has never had a fried bologna sandwich.
I'll tell you this quick story, Jay. During, because it's Thanksgiving is a time to reminisce, right? And my grandfather, I worked with him from the time I asked for Levi's jeans when I was almost 12 years old. He put me to work so that I could earn money to make Levi's, and I worked with him every summer and on the weekends. He's a mechanic. You know this, Jay, but he. When I lived with my mama for a while in an apartment before she eventually had to go to an assisted living, there was about 3 years there that I lived in that apartment, and Paul would pick me up during the summer and would pick me up on the weekends in his big work truck, and then we'd go to work. Well, he always made breakfast. And every morning that I got into that truck during this time, there would be a sandwich in saran wrap sitting on my seat. And it was always an egg and cheese sandwich, but sometimes it was bacon. Yeah. Every once in a while it was sausage. But most of the time it was bologna, egg, and cheese. Oh, so
what
good.
Happy memories. Your pa really thought a lot of you, didn't he, man? And took care of you. I mean, that's just so. He got up in the morning and fixed himself and you breakfast.
He did. He did.
Is so cool. That's so American.
And even when I wasn't, eventually,
you weren't living with him.
I wasn't living with him, no. But you got to have breakfast. You got to have something to eat. All right, Jay, let's take a quick time out. We'll get to some of these questions in just a moment. Jay St. Clair is with us for the better part of the hour. If you have any legal questions or any thoughts of reminiscence about Thanksgiving gone by, you're welcome to throw those in there on the super text line or on the phone line, 615-737-9986. A Thanksgiving Eve edition of The Murphy Show continues next. USS, United Structural Systems, says Happy Thanksgiving, and they give thanks for all of you, and we give thanks for them. It's a mutual experience with United Structural Systems. Now, you're spending some time at the house, right? I mean, maybe you've got family and friends over for the at the homestead for the Thanksgiving holiday. If you're concerned about the home, if you're concerned about bowing or walls swaying or walls that aren't in the proper position or doors sticking, these are signs of foundation issues that you need to address with United Structural Systems. When it comes to large home repairs, a lot of times homeowners want to pretend that they don't see the warning signs, but if you see the warning signs, you need to correct those warning signs. Get the peace of mind with United Structural Systems. The bottom line is what we don't know can possibly hurt us. You need to find out what's going on in your house, and you need to get it fixed with USS. USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. They can get out in advance of the Christmas holiday. Homeowners simply trust USS, keeping homes stable and dry since 1994, almost 30 years in the business now. 615-488-7855, 488-7855. Guarantee their best. It's USS. Go to USSTN.com.
An explosion at the U.S.-Canadian border is under investigation as a possible attempted terrorist act. We'll let you know what we have so far. And the death toll from an Alaskan landslide has grown. I'll have those stories at the bottom of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Jay. I will tell you, not to get in front of Jay's newscast in about 5 minutes or so, that we're looking at, I think, 2 dead on the scene at this Niagara Falls border crossing attack. That is Rainbow Bridge, they call it, between Canada and the United States. I was just there last year, my first trip to Niagara Falls, and know that area as well as any tourist who's been there would. 2 dead after an attempted terror attack at the New York-Canadian border. More on that coming up in about 5 minutes on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Jay St. Clair is with us. A lot of opinions on cranberry sauce, a lot of opinions on fried bologna. We'll hold off on those opinions for the moment and get to Tommy, who I believe has a question for Jay St. Clair. Tommy, you there?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, Tommy. I hope you are.
Oh, I am. Jay, what is the most embarrassing moment that Matt Murphy has put you in situation?
Well, he knows exactly what it is. Right? See, now that he's laughing. This was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. I wasn't there, but I let him tell us about the time he threw a cell phone in the pond at the golf course. But I didn't witness that. But I witnessed the time in Las Vegas where we were out there together, and Matt's driver's license was expired. We were at Billy Bob's
Frontier Casino.
That was about to close down. It was the only $5 craps table on the strip. And so the lady asked him for his ID. No, he applied for a player's card. And she said, well, you got to give me your ID. So he gives her his driver's license. She says, sir, it's expired. He said, well, that's fine. I don't really like your crappy little casino anyway. He didn't say that. But then she said, well, no, the issue now is whether I'm going to let you continue to gamble.
All right, so
and this was when Matt was younger. This was at least 10 years ago, maybe longer than that. And Matt does not suffer fools gladly. And he started getting mad.
I started wearing that pit boss hat. Let me tell Tommy this story. Let me tell you this story. So,
well, call it.
All right. So, Tommy, what happened was we were at Billy Bob's Frontier Casino on the Strip in Las Vegas. They were 2 months away from. They were tearing the place down to build another casino, right?
Yep.
And my wife wanted me to apply for a Players Club card so that she could get $20 in free play. I had no interest in it. So the only reason Jay and I are standing there at the craps table, the only reason I'm doing this was so that she could get that Players Club card. Well, the lady comes back, like Jay said, and said, I'm sorry, your license is expired. Now, understand, I had just flown, and I start telling her this. I said, ma'am, I just flew. TSA just allowed me on an aircraft with that identification. And she's like, well, I'm sorry, and we don't take expired IDs. And I was like, the expiration of that identification in no way changes my date of birth on it.
And he was speaking in at least this tone, but quite a bit louder and a little bit more strident. And his face was growing redder every second.
It was wearing me out. And so finally she said, she was telling me that, and I said, are you going to ID everyone in this casino, ma'am? It's because I don't see you IDing anyone else. And I guarantee you there's somebody under 21 gambling here. And she just kept explaining. And she finally kind of looked at the ID and looked at me and she said, well, I'm just going to have to call this up. And I said, ma'am, call it up. Let's go. Whoever you need to talk to. And so it was so Jay and I stand there for a minute and she comes back and she half looks at me, Tommy, and she hands me the identification and she said, have a nice day, sir. Enjoy your play. Well, thank you.
Well, okay. At least you got it.
Well, I mean, I didn't get a Players Club card that day, but she let me keep gambling. I mean, I was like, ma'am, I'm just begging you to give. I'm just trying to give you money. You know, that's all I'm trying to do.
Right.
I'm just trying to give you money, and you.
That's a good one.
Matt got wired. I haven't seen him that way since then. I mean, he was, and I don't. It was the middle of the day. I don't think we were liquored up. I mean, this was.
No, we were just starting. No, there was not a lot of alcohol involved in that. That was just, I couldn't believe it.
You got lathered up, and I'm just dying laughing at the whole thing.
That's a good one.
That was good.
Tommy, thank you, Tommy. See, Tommy wanted to embarrass me there, Jay, but that's okay. I mean, I've done some things that I'm embarrassed about in my life. That's not one of them, though. I just call it up. So now in life, when Jay and I, and thanks, Tommy, for the call, in life, when Jay St. Clair and I are together, and we witness something that's odd or just, one of those quirks in life where, folks are acting like they shouldn't act or whatever. And I'll just look at Jay and say, call it up. Just need to call that up. Jay, hang in there for just a second. We'll get to more calls in just a moment. We'll get to some of your super texts as well. Any legal questions on your mind, Jay can answer those on episode 461, our Thanksgiving Eve edition of The Murphy Show. Jay Harper's back in the newsroom with a few headlines. He's got them right now on Super Talk.
It is 1:31, and I am Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got clouds, 49 degrees. A complete forecast is just minutes away. All of the bridges that connect the U.S. to Canada at Niagara Falls have been closed after authorities say there was some sort of vehicle explosion on one of them, the Rainbow Bridge. The FBI field office in Buffalo says it's investigating after the blast on the American side of that bridge. No word on what has caused the explosion. However, fatalities are being reported. Eric is a man who was driving in the area. He tells ABC News radio affiliate WBN in Buffalo what he saw.
There's a half a dozen or more border guards walking around. They all appear to have ARs hanging on the front there, and they have a couple of, look like a couple of bomb-sniffing dogs that were just showing up.
What it seems like is that a car was coming from the Canadian side to the U.S. side, and that car exploded near one of the booths on the U.S. side. As you can imagine, it's quite a confusing scene there. We will keep you posted as we learn more information. The number of dead from a landslide in a remote area of Alaska has grown. Here's Alex Stone with more.
Now 3 people are confirmed dead and 3 more are missing from Monday's mudslide, which came down on homes in Wrangell, Alaska, north of Ketchikan. Rescue crews found the body of a girl on Tuesday, and the bodies of 2 adults have been found by a drone operator. Teams are still at work. Wrangell Borough Manager Mason Villarma.
It's quite amazing what this little community can do, and we're always just amazed about how everybody bands together. So we appreciate everybody's efforts up to this point. We're going to keep working really hard.
There is a threat of additional landslides, and Alaska State Troopers have urged other people who live in the area to get out.
That is the latest news. I've got weather on the way. Next on WTN News, I'm Jay Harper. More of the Matt Murphy Show on the way.
All right, having a bit of fun on this Thanksgiving Eve, Wednesday edition of the Matt Murphy Show, and we'll continue doing that until 3 o'clock at least. I'm certain that Brian Wilson will have a bit of fun as well, but we're also monitoring a very serious situation out of New York, out of Niagara Falls. A vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge border crossing is an attempted terrorist attack, according to multiple sources. Jay Harper's been following the story for you in the Supertalk 99.7 WTN newsroom. Brian Wilson, who will be along for the drive coming up at 3 o'clock this afternoon, joins us right now with a bit of an update. And I believe you have some sources on some additional information of a local nature. Brian, good afternoon, first and foremost.
Well, good afternoon. I know how difficult it is when you're in the middle of a show to monitor breaking news, so I thought I would just share with you some things that I've been finding as I prepare for my show at 3 o'clock. This attack against the bridge is confirmed by the FBI as a suspected terrorist attack. They have 2 people that were in the car are dead and 1 person injured, but not seriously. But apparently they say the car appears to have been packed with explosives. And the question that you always want to know is, well, are they ramping up security in other places? Specifically, many people trying to get ready to go on a Thanksgiving trip, maybe going to B&A today. And I just talked to Doug Crulin, who's the man in charge out there. And Doug tells me that, yes, they were made aware of it, and they already had enhanced security, as they always do around the holidays. But he also wanted us to know that they were adding additional officers. And so what I would say to you is, as an experienced traveler, there are times when TSA moves very quickly, and there are times when they move slowly when it comes to getting you through the line, because they ramp up their security. I would suspect that if you go to B&A today, you could expect that those lines are going to be a little slower than normal, and you will see enhanced security around the airport, and I think at any other airports around the country through which you might be traveling. And I have this, if you bear with me, I think this is very valuable. An eyewitness to the thing. The car was coming from the U.S. side in the direction toward Canada. Mm-hmm. And here is an eyewitness who saw the whole thing, thanks to one of the TV stations there in Buffalo.
My wife and I were walking down Main Street here, and the car was coming flying back here, like over 100 miles an hour. We could hardly even see me. It was going that quick. There was a car in front of him. He swerved around it, and then it looked like he hit the fence, and this fire started, and then all of a sudden he went up in the air, and then it was a ball of fire like 30, 40 feet high. I've never seen anything like it. It was really incredible.
I'm sorry, sir. You were walking. Where were you walking?
We were walking up this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then describe it again. So
Okay. So we were walking up.
Turn towards us. Turn towards us.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So we were walking up the road, and we seen this car coming down towards the border, and he was flying over 100 miles an hour. There was a car in front of him. He swerved out, went in front of the car, hit the fence, went flying up into the air. I think there was a elevation part. He went up into the air, and we just seen the fireball, and that's all we could see. It was just covered in smoke everywhere.
So the car was coming from the U.S. into Canada, towards Canada?
Yes, it was going towards Canada, yes.
Okay. Did it actually hit towards the bridge? Where was that elevated area?
There was a fence there that's fenced off around there. It looked like it hit part of the fence because it's all damaged. And then it went elevated up, and then it went up into the air, and then it was just a fireball and smoke everywhere.
Well, there you go. I mean, a little sense of what it looked like from somebody who was on the ground. And again, they are calling it a suspected terrorist attack. The vehicle, apparently, they say, was packed with explosives. The FBI, the ATF is taking charge of this, which also suggests that they are investigating this as an attempted terrorist attack. Again, it's a very fluid situation. But, when you hear an eyewitness like that, you're talking to somebody who was actually on the scene and witnessed it with their own eyes. And probably that person is talking to the media even before they have talked to police. So it sounds like we've got one to watch very closely. And I would say that any place in America where you're traveling that you would normally encounter security, you would expect that security to ramp up in the aftermath of this suspected terrorist attack.
Well, obviously at America's airports, Brian, as you mentioned, but also, those pinch points around the country where there's a lot of traffic activity going on. One would expect bridges and whatnot, overpasses, that there would be an increased security apparatus moving toward those areas for fear that this is part of a broader terrorist attack. There's no evidence of that as of yet, but obviously heightened security already during the Thanksgiving holiday. You add this to the mix, and that's going to increase levels of security around travel points. Well, I appreciate.
And let me just add one more thing. Fox News is reporting again. I always want to caution people that the information that comes in the early moments of a breaking story like this, some of it turns out to be wrong. But there's a lot of fluid information flying around, and we want to give you the best of what we can get and try to confirm it. But there is a report on Fox News that there may have been a second car somehow involved in this. And so, that's why in New York right now, they closed down all the crossings between New York and what they call the Niagara region up there. They've closed all the coming and going. You can't get into Canada. You can't get from Canada into the U.S. anywhere through there. And again, there is at least one report that there may be a second vehicle involved somehow in this that they are looking for. But we'll get more information on that as the afternoon progresses. I'll at 3 o'clock, I'll have Doug Crulin to talk about what's going on at the airport, how it's going just generally for Thanksgiving travel, but also, what they are doing to, make the place a bit more secure in the aftermath of what appears to be a terrorist attack.
Thank you very much for the update, Brian, and we'll be looking forward to that conversation with Doug later on this afternoon. On the drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, there's Brian Wilson joining us from Watertown with an update there. And if you see anything else, Brian, feel free to jump in and let us know. So, obviously, Rainbow Bridge is currently closed. All connections between Niagara Falls, New York, and Niagara Falls, Canada, currently shut down as the investigation unfolds. I just want to reiterate that while there is no evidence that this is a part of any sort of broader terrorist attack, that's immediately what comes to your mind. Symbolically on the day before a day of Thanksgiving here in the United States of America and in the Western Hemisphere. So we're watching that. We're monitoring all of that. I'll tell you what we'll do. Before we shift back to more lighter fare with Jay St. Clair, I'm going to take my break a little early. We'll get back to Jay, finish up with him. We'll continue to update you on this situation involving a car explosion on the bridge between U.S. and Canada. It's called Rainbow Bridge. If you've ever been to Niagara Falls, you know exactly where this is. You couldn't miss it. If you're there on the observation tower, if you're looking from the American side to the Canadian side, it's right there to your right and above you because that bridge travels in a fashion that's just above the observation tower. The cliff is a little above you, and it's just to the you're looking to the right, you see the bridge, you look to the left, and you see the classic Horseshoe Falls, which is, quote-unquote, the Canadian side of the fall. So we continue to monitor that situation. We'll get back to our conversation with our good friend and legal correspondent, Jay St. Clair, coming up in moments. It's 1:46 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Thanksgiving's tomorrow. And if you have last-minute spice needs, well, Savory Spice is open today. And they also want you to know about an incredible Black Friday sale deal that they have going on for you at Savory Spice. And I'm just the guy to tell you all about that. Hey, it's Matt Murphy for Savory Spice. I've told you for a while now that Savory Spice is the #1 shop for all things spices, all things cook, all things foodie, all things kitchen in the Nashville area. And I'm proven right time and time again. They have one location in Nashville on Charlotte Pike at L&L Market. The other's in Franklin, off the square in Franklin. You need to go and see these guys. And their Black Friday Small Business Saturday deal is going on right now. You buy $100, you get $100. You make a $100 purchase this weekend, and you will receive $100. That's $10 gift cards for 2024. There's more details in the shop, but that's the bottom line on it. Small Business Saturday is their favorite day at Savory Spice. So right now, November 24th through the 26th, Savory Spice, their Black Friday sale. You go into the shop, you buy $100, and you get $100. That's as simple as it gets. Plus, there are some great, believe it or not, stocking stuffer opportunities at Savory Spice. You buy $100, you get $100 back. Go find out more details at Savory Spice. It's Savory Spice in Franklin, Savory Spice in Nashville. Go by and see them today. Tell them I sent you.
An explosion at the U.S.-Canadian border under investigation as a possible terrorist act. We'll have more of what we know so far. And with the approaching Thanksgiving Day holiday, look for an increased law enforcement presence on Tennessee roadways. I'll have those stories at the top of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, thank you, Jay Harper. 153, almost 154, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My apologies to Jay St. Clair, and for those of you holding to ask a question of Jay St. Clair, because of the nature of the breaking news, I just I called an audible, and we thank Jay and appreciate him, and we'll catch up with him coming up in just a little bit next week, not Friday, obviously, because we're not here Friday. But next Friday, we'll catch up with Jay St. Clair again. So for those of you who had questions or thoughts for Jay, we wanted to have a little fun with him on the other side. But I just want to reset this New York issue. We got Friday Mac Attack coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. We're not going wall to wall unless and until there's some new development on this, we're not going wall to wall. But if there is a new development, then we're wall to wall. I mean, that's the bottom line. 2 are dead in the car explosion on the bridge that's called the Rainbow Bridge at the U.S.-Canadian border. It is an apparent terrorist attack, as we've been reporting to you, as Jay Harper's been telling you in the newsroom. I don't want to get in front of his reporting that will happen in about 5 minutes or so, but let me give you the rundown. The FBI currently investigating the explosion that happened between the U.S. and Canadian border in what sources are saying is an attempt at a terrorist attack or an actual terrorist attack. I mean, they facilitated the attack. Explosives were in the vehicle at the time of the explosion. 2 people who were in the car are dead. The vehicle was driving from the United States to Canada. They were attempting to drive toward the border office building. All bridges are currently closed. All government buildings evacuated, according to sources. International border crossing points. All international border crossing points between Canada and Western New York are currently closed after the incident, which has also injured at least one person, a 27-year-old male who was taken to the Memorial Hospital in Niagara Falls with minor injuries, including back pain and minor cuts. His condition not severe. According to the FBI in a statement, the FBI Buffalo field office investigating an explosion at Rainbow Bridge, a border crossing between the United States and Canada at Niagara Falls. It continued, the FBI is coordinating with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners in the investigation as the situation is fluid. They say that it is all that they can say about at this time, so they're not saying much else except for that. As Brian Wilson stopped by moments ago, as he was doing some research for his show starting at 3 o'clock, he's gathering a little bit of information regarding this story, and he communicated with an official out at the the Nashville airport, BNA, and they have indicated that obviously their security apparatus is going to be on high alert during the busy holiday travel season anyway. And as a result of something like this, anytime there is an attack on transportation infrastructure, that is going to heighten the sensitivity of those involved in transportation infrastructure, which you might expect. Obviously, this is not related to aircraft in any way that we can see, and it is not related. It is not something that we believe is anything other than an isolated situation at this time. We have no information indicating that it's anything other than an isolated terrorist attack. But if you stop and take a step back for a moment, and I don't want to speculate too much on it, but when you have 2 individuals in an automobile that was reportedly packed with explosives, so much so that eyewitnesses on the scene indicated that there was a fireball that was at least 30 feet, if not 40 feet, in the air as a result of the explosion, you're talking about a considerable amount of explosives inside of that car, which would lead one to believe that there was a decent amount of coordination, if not between just the 2 individuals who are currently dead in the car, but potentially even more individuals exterior to the automobile, which leads one to ask the question, is it an isolated event or is it something that has some coordination going on? I am certain that officials are on top of that situation, but as it stands right now, no additional information with regard to whether or not this extends beyond this isolated incident. If you're just joining us, it was about an hour or a little over an hour ago that we became aware that a suicide bomb was set off in a vehicle, killing 2 people inside of the vehicle. And those 2 are the only that have been severely injured or dead as a result of that vehicle going off. The vehicle was coming from the United States side. It was going toward the Canadian side. And 2 people are currently dead. Those are 2 people who were inside of the vehicle. One, a minor injury, and no word on the nature of that injury, but it feels like it was I would call it a panic injury, or an injury of someone trying to get out of the general area, because we're talking cuts and scrapes and bruises and that sort of thing. Jay Harper is here, and he will update us on this information. We'll continue to update you all afternoon long. We'll turn our attention to fun Thanksgiving discussion with the Friday Mac attack coming up in just a moment, but we'll continue to update you on this very serious situation as circumstances warrant on The Murphy Show on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. It's 1:59, almost 2 o'clock on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Time for the news.
Good afternoon. It is exactly 2 p.m., and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A cloudy sky, 49 degrees. That Thanksgiving forecast is on the way. As Matt Murphy has been updating you, all of the bridges that connect the U.S. to Canada at Niagara Falls have been closed after authorities say there was a vehicle explosion on one of those bridges. The FBI field office in Buffalo, New York, says it's investigating after the blast that was on the American side of the Rainbow Bridge. No official confirmation on exactly what has caused the explosion. There are speculations, but no official confirmation yet. But law enforcement does tell ABC News that there are fatalities. Kristen Miran, she's with the ABC TV affiliate WKBW in that area. She also says officials at the Buffalo airport are on high alert there.
The Buffalo Niagara International Airport is taking extra precaution as well, given that it's one of the busiest travel days of the year. Their canine units are out there sniffing out each of the cars as it approaches the airport. I know that there is heightened security at the rail system as well. And they are in touch with TSA and Homeland Security out of an abundance of caution. But the airport is open right now. Buffalo Airport is open.
Sources are also telling ABC News that authorities are looking at a briefcase they found in the scene there, and that bomb-sniffing dogs are also on hand. Again, as you can imagine, as Matt has been saying, a fluid situation. So we'll keep you posted as best we can. And, of course, Brian Wilson will, I'm sure, have more info at 3 o'clock. The Tennessee Highway Patrol launching a huge effort this holiday to make sure people drive safely. It's called the Tennessee Interstate Challenge. The goal is to increase the presence of law enforcement on roads across the state. The Highway Patrol plans to place patrols along the interstate about every 10 to 20 miles. I personally can vouch for that. Driving in from Murfreesboro on 24 earlier today, I probably saw at least 8 or 9 Highway Patrol vehicles with people pulled over the Thanksgiving holiday. Last year, the THP arrested almost 90 people for DUI and worked more than 500 crashes last year. 14 of those were fatal. 4 pedestrians also killed over the Thanksgiving holiday last year. So again, let's all be careful. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Let's talk about the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief for a moment because they help assist you during the holidays. Holidays can be a strained time. It can be a stressful time. And if you already have back pain, maybe it adds, it takes away, I should say, detracts from the enjoyment of the season. Well, I have solutions for you at the Dr. Gill Center, but all you need to do, you got to do one thing for me. You got to make the call that so many others have made to the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. One telephone call and say the words Matt Murphy and maybe throw in the words pain relief, and you'll get a reduced initial consultation. And I encourage you to do this if you have back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, any pain on your body, anywhere on your body. They can help alleviate it through their chiropractic center. They also have state-of-the-art equipment like their Class 5 laser system, red light therapy, and spinal decompression, all designed to pinpoint inflammation in the body, reduce pain, swelling, and accelerate healing. That's what it's all about. The Dr. Gill Center. They're here for you. Call them. 615-882-4838. 615-882-4838. Call today. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Matt Murphy Show, final hour of our day, final hour of the week for us as we are off for Thanksgiving Day and off Friday as well. Best of shows, both of those days. They'll be good. Trust me on that. We're monitoring a situation, and Jay Harper's on top of that back in the newsroom, and we're keeping on top of it as well. Monitoring a serious situation that seems to be static at this point. A vehicle accelerated from the American side of Rainbow Bridge at Niagara Falls, New York, and Niagara Falls, Canada, on either side of it, accelerated at a high rate of speed, went airborne, landed in an area on the bridge before ultimately exploding on the bridge. It is believed, according to the FBI, to have been packed with explosives, and it is believed at this stage that it was an intentional and terrorist attack on American soil. So we continue to monitor the situation. Jay does. I know Brian Wilson will have more for you as well, and how this relates to some travel planning that you might have at B&A Airport later on this afternoon. We're on top of that situation for you. And if any information comes out about that situation, we'll bring it to you immediately on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. But we can chew bubble gum and walk at the same time, and we do so at 2:07 this afternoon with a little lighter fare. Normally, you hear this on Fridays. Well, today, it's like a Friday because we're not here tomorrow and we're not here on Friday. And so we thought, well, why not have Friday Mac Attack on Wednesday? I mean, that seems like it would make sense to us. And you go ahead and you. It's like three.
Communication's off the charts.
I know. It's like Bell gives me a look. It's like he's looking at me. He's like, well, does he really mean it?
Does he mean the point?
Does he mean the point?
I was sort of waiting for you to shut up so I wouldn't be walking on top of you.
You've been doing this business long enough. No. Let me tell you. Do not listen to what I'm saying.
Little flute.
Listen to what I put.
The little flute in the back. I like that, Bell.
Look at my hand. Don't listen to my voice. How many times do I have to say that? Look at my hand. Don't listen to my face. Look at my hand. Don't listen to my face.
He's not listening or looking, so it's no worries.
What?
He's grumpy. He's grumpy because of the number of people on the super text line calling cranberry sauce a garnish. Which, look,
if you said that, you're blocked and you're reported.
No question. Garnish? Come on, man. All right, it's Friday Mac Attack time.
I don't hate it.
No, it's not a garnish. It's a sauce. I can understand.
It's a sauce.
It's a sauce. It's a jelly.
Topping.
It's a topping. It's something that goes along. Dare I say, an accoutrement.
Wow.
Yeah.
The lexicon.
So I can completely understand why people would push back to the idea that it's a side.
Yeah, I heard you guys talking about it in the 12 o'clock hour. Not a side.
A garnish is more like a little sprig of parsley. I don't feel like you eat garnish.
That's true. Yeah, garnish is for looks. Yeah.
And maybe it's like a little pickle, It's a little garnish. A little
side, yeah. Sure, yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Hello, Mac.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great.
I didn't know you were here today.
What?
Jay's in the back there. And,
oh yeah, I know.
No,
Jay's
you're handling producer duties and Thanksgiving, and day after Thanksgiving duties today.
Yes.
But
yes.
you're here. I'm not pulling you away from like vacation.
No.
One would
I'm
hope.
here. I got it. Come on. This is
It's Friday Mac Attack.
Friday Mac Attack. We've got a
On
big
Wednesday.
draft.
We do have a big draft.
We've been talking about this for weeks.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. So, let's talk about a few things.
Okay, great. Yeah.
All right. Well, you tell
Play it
everyone before I get in your way. It's Mac Attack. It's not Murph Attack. So, tell everybody by now you should know the draft deal, right? We draft different subjects, whether it's superheroes or cereals or whatever. And this week's big draft is
Thanksgiving sides. Yes. Yeah. Holiday season. We're sticking topical next week. Just a little tease. Next week we're doing holidays. So be ready for that next Friday.
Ooh, right in the midst of the big holiday zone.
We're just boom. Holidays.
Do some
What do you
holidays. I like that too. So Thanksgiving sides.
Thanksgiving sides. This is a big one. I mean, every year this conversation comes back up. The debate re-ensues. I mean, stuffing or dressing. I think we should start there.
Okay, so we had a conversation about this yesterday in advance of this segment, and I think we're all in agreement that dressing and stuffing are two different things.
100%. Stuffing's in the turkey.
Stuffing's in the turkey. Dressing's in a pan in the oven made to go with the turkey.
Yes. And stovetop are liars.
And yes, and stovetop stuffing. Oh my goodness gracious!
No.
What are you doing? Although I will say, if you make stovetop, and there's a way to get some extra moisture in it. I think it's like chicken stock or something like that. Anyway, it's good, but if you're doing that on Thanksgiving, you're doing it wrong. So we're not going to subdivide dressing. Though,
I was going to say, no cornbread dressing, and I take this sort of no. Dressing's dressing.
No. That would be. Bell brought up the point. That would be like saying, "Hey, I want a Corvette, but I want a '68 Corvette," and you go, "Oh, I want a '67 Corvette."
Yeah,
No.
okay, come on.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Stop that.
What constitutes a side? I think I'm going to fall because I asked, "Is cranberry sauce a side? Are rolls a side?"
And see, that's where I think rolls. Are a side.
I think rolls are a side too. Now, I might judge you if you're picking rolls in your draft, but we'll see how the draft works out.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Rolls
are great.
But I love a good yeast roll.
That's what I'm saying, man.
I mean, because
slather some butter on that.
Because, dude, the yeast roll is how when you have finished up the plate and you've still got and you just it's
gravy
just a way
and
to
mashed potatoes
just
and
sop, just sop everything out. So good.
Oh, I can't wait.
You know what we got on the Thanksgiving table this year?
Yeah, what's going on in the Murphy household?
We have butter in the shape of a turkey. I'm not making that up.
Oh, I love it.
Do we not live in a great country?
Come on, man.
Come on. What are you talking about? The best time in the world to live.
Yes.
I mean,
that's American.
Somewhere, someone said, you know what would make this delicious butter better? If we molded it in the shape of a turkey. And they do. And they did.
And people are like, yeah, I want to buy that.
Oh, I'm all in. He brought it home. I was like, yeah, let's go.
Oh, I can see Erica just loving that.
My
yeah.
goodness. And then
I mean, I would too. I can't blame her.
Which is also one of my favorite things to do.
And you can change the sound as you scoop it away. Oh, it gets a little bit less.
He runs away.
Yeah.
It's just little games
yes,
that we're playing
exactly.
at the table. Hey, hold on just a second. Just enjoy yourself for a bit.
Okay, great.
Hey, Bell, the segment started. I don't know what you're doing.
I'm trying to manage some things behind the scenes.
What can possibly be more important than this segment? Don't answer that question. Whatever it is, whoever it is, whatever's distracting you, they need to stop. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Mandis or anybody. They need to stop because you need to be prioritized on this. Now, once again, I'm going to remind you, we're monitoring the situation.
Yes.
It's static in nature right now. We're monitoring that situation in New York at Niagara Falls. There was an explosion earlier. It's believed to be a terrorist attack. And I mean, is it breaking news?
I assume so, yes.
Well, I mean, if he needs to break in, then he needs to break in. I mean, if there's breaking news going on, then I don't see anything right now. But there's an explosion. Okay, yeah, that's the same thing.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, if you ask him off air if he needs to break into what we're doing right now to break the news, and if he tells you he does, then get him in.
I'll join you in a few minutes when y'all wrap this up.
No, go ahead, Brian. You're here, so let's go ahead and do it. I mean, it's breaking news. Let's do it. Come on.
Well, I just wanted to bring you up to date because we have had a terrorist attack against the country right now, and there is a great deal of reaction and security at the airport that even in Nashville has been ramped up. Justin Trudeau spoke just a few moments ago. Very briefly, here's what he had to say.
Mr. Speaker, this is obviously a very serious situation in Niagara Falls. There was a vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge crossing. I've been briefed by the NSIA and the Minister of Public Safety. CBSA, RCMP, and Transport Canada are all fully engaged in providing the necessary support. There are a lot of questions, and we are following up to try and get as many answers as rapidly as possible. We are in close contact with U.S. officials, and we'll continue to work closely with them.
There is more of talk about a second possible vehicle involved in this, and many people are pointing to Christopher Wray's testimony recently on Capitol Hill, where he said the following.
But as I said a few moments ago, on top of the homegrown violent extremist and domestic violent extremist threat, we also cannot and do not discount the possibility that Hamas or another foreign terrorist organization may exploit the current conflict to conduct attacks here on our own soil. We have kept our sights on Hamas and have multiple ongoing investigations into individuals affiliated with that foreign terrorist organization.
Bottom line is, every area in the nation is ramping up security around sensitive areas. For example, in the Buffalo area, they have closed a local Jewish center because there is some belief this is somehow tied to perhaps a lone wolf attack by Hamas.
Brian, is there any information that we've received thus far? I'm not trying to be pointed here, but there's no information that I've seen that this is a part of a broader conspiracy right now. I just don't want to scare the hell out of people right now.
Well, listen, I think what I would say, too, it is our job in a situation like this to inform people about what's happening so they can make the best judgment that they need to make. For example, people traveling during the holidays. One way or the other, what we have here is a situation that is being described as a terrorist attack, the first terrorist attack we've had against this country in some time, and it comes at a time when we already have elevated threat levels because of concerns about a lone wolf attack by somebody associated or inspired by Hamas. And that is beginning to be what it looks like it's shaping up to be at this time. So
I just don't want anyone joining us in the midst of this and thinking that we have some sort of independent knowledge that this is a part of a broader situation. That's the only thing that
I'm bringing you the panoply of things that are crossing the wires right now and the stories that I'm seeing. And there is great concern that this was a terrorist attack. Is there a wider threat? We just don't know. But in a situation that's fluid, I would like people to have that information.
Well, I certainly understand that, and I appreciate you bringing that information to us. And obviously, at this point, it seems static as opposed to fluid, though. I mean, it seems static in terms of it's not an ongoing or current situation. Would you agree, Brian?
I think it's still very fluid, and I think there's a lot more that we don't know than what we do know at this particular moment. And with the fact that there's a potential second car, I think the story could expand.
Well, it's obviously of concern anytime that you have a holiday situation and holiday travel and whatnot. It's obviously of a concern that you have a broader situation going on. I don't have any information that I'm looking at that it is necessarily a broader situation. I've not seen that. But at the same time, obviously, that's the first thing you think, considering that there's a holiday tomorrow. There's a tremendous amount of travel at BNA and otherwise. And I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll reset here. It's 2:18. I'm going to scrap Mag Attack for now. We're going to go full coverage on this terrorist situation because that seems the direction that we want to go. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. Thank you to Mac Morey and to Bell K. We'll be back in just a moment on Super Talk.
Plenty of activity happening at the U.S.-Canadian border at Niagara Falls after authorities say that vehicle explosion that happened there earlier today is a suspected terrorist event. We are on top of it, and we'll have what we know here at the bottom of the hour. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Thank you, Jay. And jump in here if you have any updates between now and then. Obviously, we'll continue to update you on a breaking news situation that seems to have been contained there at Rainbow Bridge, Niagara Falls. The Buffalo Airport is closed to international travel after that border explosion, an abundance of caution there. One does not know if this is a part of a greater situation or if it's an isolated event. It remains to be seen. I think it's fair to say, and I'll acquiesce to Brian Wilson's description of it, that it is a fluid situation in as much as we don't know what we don't know at this stage. However, we're going to suspend any and all other conversation right now and go wall to wall on this story. I understand it's the day before Thanksgiving, and a lot of people are anticipating some travel. Maybe you got some folks coming in to be in a airport, or you are outgoing, or perhaps that travel is happening on our roadways one way or the other. We're going to continue to cover this story for you comprehensively until we hand off to Brian Wilson at 3 o'clock. The FBI is investigating a vehicle explosion. Let me just recap for those just joining. This explosion happened earlier today. It is an automobile explosion on the bridge at the U.S.-Canadian border. If you've ever been to Niagara Falls, and it's recent in my memory in as much as I went last year with my wife and another couple. If you are on the American Falls side of things and you are looking across the river to the Canadian side and you're on the American side, the falls does a 90-degree bend from it goes down, it bends 90 degrees. That's where Horseshoe Falls is, and that's technically on the Canadian side. And then American Falls is on down the river on the American side of things. And then you have that border between Canada and the United States. If you are standing at the observation point from the American side, Rainbow Bridge is directly to your right, and it appears above you as the topography leads you up up a hill to that area. And that's the bridge that we're talking about between the United States and Canadian border. Sources are saying to multiple outlets, media outlets, including ours, that it is believed to have been a terrorist attack. It's referred to an attempted terrorist attack in as much as the only two individuals we believe to be dead at this point are the two individuals inside of the vehicle that was packed with explosives. Explosives in the vehicle at the time, two people in the car dead. According to sources, the vehicle was driving from the United States to Canada, from the U.S. to Canada, and attempted to drive toward the border building at a great rate of speed. The bridges are obviously closed. All other vehicle activity has been shut down in that immediate vicinity, and right now as we speak, it's believed that the situation is somewhat contained in that area. I mentioned that the Buffalo Airport has closed to international travel after that border explosion. I'm just going to check, and Bell, you update. Feel free to update me if you see anything in your room, and let Jay know the same thing. Update me on anything that you see. I'm just going to update my feed here, and I had a number of feeds pulled up. No, it looks to be pretty static. So a vehicle accelerated at a high rate of speed. That vehicle went airborne in a deliberate attempt to breach some of the security perimeters. And that is I will say this, that area is it's incredibly secure. It's international border crossing. So the expectation is that you have to show proper documentation and paperwork. When I was there, they were still requiring confirmation of COVID testing and of a negative COVID test, and also of vaccinations in order to get into Canada. And that was from the Canadian side. They demanded of that of the Americans coming into that side, coming in from the American side to the Canadian side. They insisted that you had that level of documentation. With that in mind, there was even more increased security at the time that we were there. I did not travel, in my experience, I did not travel across, but we got close enough to see the extreme level of security that's involved. There's a lot of fencing there. There's obviously stations much like in a toll booth circumstance. These stations were designed to funnel traffic and funnel cars through these individual slots so that you show your documentation. They check the cars. There's dogs. There are bomb-sniffing dogs, drug-sniffing dogs at these locations. So there is a lot of security apparatus involved in a border crossing, even as it is a crossing between two friendly neighbors, Canada and the United States of America. The vehicle in question, we don't have, and I'm looking at the various reports here. Let me pull this up. I do not have any information about the nature of the vehicle itself, only that it is no more. It has been exploded. And man, oh man, I'm looking at some photos. Videos show that the vehicle accelerated at a high rate, went airborne, hit a curb, and landed at the security checkpoint area. Multiple portions of the border have been shut down, and multiple border crossings have been shut down as a result. 2 are known to be dead at this time. The New York Police Department officers have been deployed. New York Police Department officers, according to Mayor Eric Adams on X, he announced that they have deployed efforts to support those at the Rainbow Bridge. So, I mean, as far away as New York City, I mean, and that's a hop, skip, and a jump away from Buffalo and then subsequently Niagara Falls. Unclear how many members of the New York City Police Department have been deployed and how exactly they would assist officials on the ground. Adams, mayor of New York, reminded the public New York City is already on a heightened alert status due to the upcoming holiday. The New York Police Department and their partners have already enhanced security, and the city is on heightened alert due to the upcoming holiday, according to the report. So the public will see an increased security apparatus at locations around New York City, including entry and egress points into and out of the city. We've also reached out to and are in ongoing communication with partners from across different levels of government to assist in this effort. Number one priority is and always will be the safety of New Yorkers. That from Mayor Eric Adams. You see, I'm seeing photographic evidence of the aftermath of the Rainbow Bridge as well. I'll describe some of that to you in the coming moments of the show. We'll recenter and get an update from Jay Harper over in the newsroom. Joe Biden, the president of the United States, according to the White House some 12 minutes ago, has been briefed on the matter. We'll tell you about that briefing and everything else you need to know about a car that has exploded on Rainbow Bridge in Niagara Falls, New York. It is 2:30 on Super Talk.
Good afternoon. It is 2:30, and I'm Jay Harper with the top story. We have clouds and 49 degrees. We'll get to that weather forecast here momentarily. Matt Murphy has been briefing you pretty much on where things stand with that explosion at the U.S.-Canadian border at Niagara Falls, but we do have some information here from reporters with ABC on the scene. All of the bridges, as Matt has been saying, that connect the U.S. to Canada at Niagara Falls, they've all been shut down. Authorities there, of course, reporting on that vehicle explosion earlier today. The FBI field office in Buffalo says it is on the scene investigating with other law enforcement agencies. All of these reports here, again, coming in fast and furious. The blast happening on the American side of the Rainbow Bridge. No real word, at least nothing confirming what caused that explosion, but law enforcement sources do tell ABC News there are fatalities. Here is Aaron Katursky from New York with ABC.
It appears the vehicle was coming into the United States from Canada and went through some kind of checkpoint and then was told to go through a secondary screening and then crashed at that secondary screening location after speeding up. That's what the authorities have seen on surveillance images, according to sources briefed on this investigation.
New York's governor, she's on her way to the area there in Buffalo. Aaron Katursky, he also has more on that.
Governor Kathy Hochul here in New York is on her way to the scene. She's from Buffalo and put out a statement a moment ago indicating that she would also dispatch herself to the scene to talk to law enforcement officials and ask the state police to monitor all points of entry into New York.
Also at airports nationwide, there is no indication the vehicle explosion is causing much of a security change. This according to ABC. The TSA telling ABC News it always operates at high levels of security, especially this time of year. And the TSA says travelers should already expect to see an increased law enforcement and canine presence here during the rush of the Thanksgiving travel season. Again, Matt Murphy and subsequently Brian Wilson will be keeping everyone up to date as we again continue to cover this story. That is the latest on that situation. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I wish I could tell you that we're having a good time this 2 o'clock hour, but we're not, considering some of the activity happening currently at Niagara Falls, at Rainbow Bridge in Niagara Falls, New York, and subsequently at other points of transportation hubs around the United States of America. Many of those hubs already on alert due to the Thanksgiving holiday and the increased level of travel activity at airports and at various transportation points around the United States of America, obviously our American interstates and whatnot, and our bridge points. But that level of heightened security has gone up exponentially as a result of something that happened earlier today. So we'll keep you up to date with that. Obviously, phone lines are available at 615-737-9986. Not a lot of area for speculation right now because there are so many gaps in information as to what we have in front of us in Niagara Falls. So let me catch you up to date. If you're just joining us, maybe you got an alert on your phone. Perhaps you're out and about in advance of the Thanksgiving holiday tomorrow, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. Let me update you. Earlier today, there was an apparent terrorist attack that occurred at Rainbow Bridge in Niagara Falls, New York. It was in the form of a vehicle accelerating at a high rate of speed toward the security checkpoint at the bridge between New York and Canada. Both of those areas are known as Niagara Falls, either Niagara Falls, New York, or Niagara Falls, Canada. Niagara Falls, obviously, is just about 30 or so miles away from Buffalo, New York. And that's an estimate. That's not an exact number. So that attack came in the form of an accelerated vehicle going at a high rate of speed, jumping a barrier, getting airborne, landing, and once it landed, exploding. Witnesses on the scene indicated that the explosion created a fireball some 30 to 40 feet in the air. Another witness captured video showing thick clouds of smoke rising from the flames of the vehicle explosion on the Rainbow Bridge border crossing between the United States and Canada. Quote, "I've never seen anything like it. The car just exploded," the witness said, as he recorded through a window nearby. The Buffalo Niagara International Airport has closed to both international arriving and departing flights. The closure is listed for 2 days, but one would expect that if there is no follow-up, more on that in a moment, that it might not last for 48 hours over the course of the Thanksgiving holiday. But that, according to right now, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, announced a 2-day closure, and one wonders if that is not fluid in some way. Buffalo Niagara International Airport has up to 100 nonstop flights per day, serving 31 various airport destinations. And anything like that is, anything like that, any disruption in air travel when there's already a strained system. Broadly, we have a strained transportation system. You add to that the holiday season, and that's going to create even a greater strain on the system. You add then to that a terrorist or what is believed to be what officials call a terrorist attack on American soil, and that is going to further strain the system. And now the Buffalo Niagara International Airport announces that it is shutting down international arriving and departing flights, and there's about 100 of those on the international side of things. Each car, and this according to the FAA as well, in the Buffalo International Airport, every car coming into Buffalo International Airport is being screened with bomb-detecting dogs amid heightened security in response to the incident at Rainbow Bridge. Police patrols will be increased, and travelers at the airport will undergo additional screenings as well. There's also a story coming out regarding the Jewish Community Center of Greater Buffalo. There's a natural predisposition or belief that this might have something to do with the heightened tensions involving the Israel conflict with Hamas in the Gaza region, despite the fact that there was a brokered pause in the activity going on, the warlike activity going on in that region of the world. That pause brokered between Hamas and Israel upon the condition that they release at least 50 of the hostages currently being held by Hamas. That brokered deal is tenuous at best, and one wouldn't expect that this would affect that, but you never know in terms of international tension and international relations. If this is determined to be something of a response to that, it remains to be seen. We don't know. We don't know what the factors involved in the modus operandi of this attack on Rainbow Bridge. The Jewish Community Center, however, of Greater Buffalo, out of an abundance of caution, is closing through the Thanksgiving holiday after law enforcement recommended that it do so. Quote, out of an abundance of caution, our partners with law enforcement have recommended that we close our buildings throughout the Thanksgiving holiday. There are no known credible threats against the Jewish community at this time. I mentioned that New York City Police Department officers have been deployed, and they are making their way toward Niagara Falls. I don't know what this. I think Buffalo is the second largest city in New York. And I don't know what the size of that department would be and the size and scope and scale of their terrorist or counterterrorism forces would be. One would expect that Niagara Falls, being an international port, would have something along those lines in place. But the scale of this attack, I mean, it was an explosion. Fireball went into the air. I just saw a video of it on monitor number 2. The fireball went into the air like I said, 35 or 40 feet. So we will continue to monitor the situation. Hank is in Smyrna joining us now with a thought on this bridge attack. Hello, Hank. How are you?
I'm doing good. How y'all doing?
I'm good. Thank you.
Man, I was wondering, you said something about like New York and other big cities, and I guess all over America, we're on heightened alert for these terrorist attacks right now because of everything going on overseas and the fact that it's Thanksgiving. I was just wondering, how if we're on heightened alert and we can't stop these couple of apparently no-brain terrorists that blew nobody but themselves up in this bridge, how are we going to stop somebody that is going to try to blow up a big parade or something like that? You know what I mean?
That was a concern of yours?
Yeah, if we can't stop these two people, if they're already on heightened alert, if the FBI and everybody's on heightened alert, and they can't stop these two people, thank God they didn't hurt nobody they injured somebody, but thank God they didn't kill nobody but themselves. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if they can't stop those two people, how are they going to stop somebody that might drive into the Macy's Day Parade and there's no. Those could have been those same two people, you know what I mean?
Well, and I understand the nature of what you're talking about. And Hank, thank you for the call. In a country that believes in freedom of movement and freedom of association and your free ability to associate and move in our country in a manner of your choosing, by the nature of those freedoms, and I'm not trying to get too philosophical during breaking news, but the nature of those freedoms indicate that you're going to not be as secure as you could be if you were to lock things down in a fashion that you see some countries doing. Israel has no choice. I think it's a perfectly appropriate example to use, especially considering what's going on currently with Israel and Hamas. Israel has no choice but to lock their country down in a lot of different ways that we don't do in the United States of America. However, if we had terrorism that, God forbid, came across the southern border to our country because of a lackadaisical attitude regarding the southern border, or if it is homegrown in its nature, or if these individuals flew in we don't know who they are, we don't know where they're from, and we don't know what their purpose was. We don't know what their grief was or why they engaged in an act of terrorism along these lines. We'll find that out over the course of the next several hours and the next several days. We right now pray that this is a lone wolf attack. Now, I say lone wolf, understanding that there were two individuals inside of the vehicle. But you pray that it is a singular event isolated from any other events that might be going on around the world. Worst case scenario, and Brian Wilson alluded to it earlier, worst case scenario is that it's a part of something broader. We don't know. Now, I promise you that you have many good individuals on the ground from an FBI perspective and law enforcement community perspective that are moving in that direction, trying to figure that out as we speak, whether or not this is a singular one-off. And I assure you they're doing everything in their power to figure out where the automobile came from, who was driving that automobile, who was in the automobile with the driver, and what the nature of their terrorist attack exactly was, and whether or not that might lead us to believe that they're is something else going on at a later point today or down the road. Let us hope and pray. We get on our knees and pray that that's not the case. But what we know now is that 2 are dead in a car explosion on this bridge at the U.S.-Canadian border. Those 2 individuals were the assailants in this terrorist attack, it is believed. They were in the car at the time that the car exploded. No one else was killed, and 1 individual was reported as injured, and their injuries, it was indicated, are not life-threatening. So 2:48, we will reset with Jay Harper coming up in just a moment. We'll get an update from him, and we'll continue moving our way toward 3 o'clock and Brian Wilson in the drive. It is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Matt Murphy has been keeping you up to speed on that explosion at the U.S.-Canadian border near Niagara Falls. At the top of the hour, I'll have the latest in the form of audio from ABC News to get you more up to speed if you're just now learning of this incident today. I'm Jay Harper, standing by at the top of the hour on WTN.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate you. Brian Wilson also standing by. He will be with us at the top of the hour as well for the Drive with Brian Wilson. He'll have an update. Pardon me. He'll have an update on the situation at B&A Airport, which I think is very crucial to many of you that are perhaps planning flights out, and he'll update you with that, with officials from the airport at the top of the hour, and the rest of the breaking news, including witness audio. He shared a portion of that audio with us a little bit earlier today from his studio in Watertown. So we're continuing to monitor the situation as it exists, coming to us from Buffalo, New York, for those, or I should say Niagara Falls, New York. For those of us just joining us, 2 dead in a car explosion on a bridge at the U.S.-Canadian border. That is ultimately all we know outside of the fact that the FBI is investigating that explosion as a terrorist attack. They are considering it an attempted terrorist attack. 2 are dead who were inside the car that crashed and exploded at the border checkpoint. Explosives were in the vehicle at the time, and 2 people who were in the vehicle are dead. That, according to Fox News, amongst multiple other sources. The vehicle is driving from the United States side of things, so it begs a lot of questions, and we have far more questions than answers here in this situation, and I'm just going to pose some of those questions in an open-ended fashion to help you understand where we are, right? So you have a car that accelerated and intentionally crashed into security barricades and security barriers on Rainbow Bridge, going from the United States side, seemingly attempting to crash into a barrier that would lead them to the Canadian side. But this was obviously a suicide mission in that the car had explosives in it. We don't know if it was, quote-unquote, packed with explosives, but it had enough explosives inside of the vehicle that it led to an explosion where the fireball, according to witnesses, rose some 35 to 40 feet into the air. So what was the nature of the attack? Is it a reflection on activity that's going on around the world today? The Israel-Hamas conflict immediately comes to mind. That's obviously where our minds go. But even before we go there, we ask ourselves the question, is this an isolated event? It seems so, at least thus far. Is it an isolated event, or is it a part of something larger? We don't know the answer to that question. Every piece of evidence that we have, every piece of information that we have would indicate that this is a one-off, but we don't know. You never know until you know, right? So all across the United States of America, your travel checkpoints in the form of airports and major hubs and major cities around the United States, they are on heightened levels of security, already heightened because of the Thanksgiving holiday, and increased heightened level of security as a result of this attack outside of Buffalo, in Niagara Falls, New York, on the Rainbow Bridge. Jay Harper is going to have more for you right now in the Super Talk 99.7 WTN newsroom. And, of course, Brian Wilson will have comprehensive coverage for you all afternoon. Ladies and gents, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. I hope that I don't talk to you before Monday, because if I do, that means that this situation perhaps has grown worse. But when news breaks, we'll break in on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.